So thanks to Eric and BYBB for inviting me today. I think this is so awesome. I really appreciate his vision for bringing medium-sized businesses together because there are a lot of resources if you're a startup and a lot of resources if you're very successful, but fewer if you're somewhere in the middle and trying to get over the hump. So I'm told that my job is to function as the case study. So I think that means I tell you all my business and you rip me apart. So be gentle, be gentle, but I don't mind because as Dana mentioned, I'm very thick-skinned. You have to be in this business and I'm here to learn just as you are. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background and then my journey and offer a couple of takeaways that I've gleaned from the last several years of business. So I'm originally from New Jersey. I'm a transplant, and I apologize in advance. There's going to be a lot of New Jersey energy in here. I think Dan left, but he's a former New Jersey person, and we just kind of vibe a lot of energy. So I promise to tone it down. But I'm originally from New Jersey. I've been in Atlanta since 1996. I came to go to Clark Atlanta University, and I graduated in 2000. Went out in the world with my little bachelor's degree, really excited, and I couldn't find a job. So I had to figure out what I was going to do with myself. Sound familiar? Yeah. So I applied to a couple of different programs, and I got admitted to Emory's PhD program in political science. I received a scholarship for the program, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm rocking and rolling here. The program was really, really, really hard. It was really hard. When people see that I have a PhD, they ask me, I'm considering a PhD program. Do you recommend it? And I say no. I don't. If you like pain and people criticizing you for 5, 6, 7 years straight, and that's kind of all they do, you come out dumber than you went in. Yeah, sure, if that's what you're interested in, enter a PhD program. But otherwise, I would advise against it. But there are good reasons to do it. I just had a not so great experience. So yeah, it was kind of rough going at Emory, but midway through, I got my rhythm and I found my community at a place called the Office for University and Community Partnerships, which is Emory's extension into Atlanta's community. Their responsibility is to do community-based research, work with folks out there doing good in the world. And I had a passion for the work because I came from a community like the ones the OUCP served, living in Camden, New Jersey. So I really dug in deep. Fast forward to 2009, it was time for me to finally wrap up that program. And I realized that I did not have a gift for teaching. And I was not going to put other people's children through what other folks had put me through, not having a passion for enlightening young minds. And so I'd done a little bit of consulting work, and I figured I can do this. I had been making $12,000 a year for 7 years, and I figured if I can do better than that, then I'm winning, right? So I launched Nexus Research Group in 2009. And I had the benefit of my experience at Emory because when I was at Emory, I was the qualitative girl. Go back to your statistics 101 class, right? So that means that whenever we had a big study, Kelly was the one that went out in the community and talked to all the CEOs, executive directors, and vice presidents of XYZ nonprofit or governmental agency. So when I left Emory, I had this Rolodex of higher ups at these organizations that I had developed rapport with. So I was able to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. If there's something that you need that you think would fit within my skill sets, give me a call. So in our first year, we had 33 projects, right? And those range from small weekend trainings all the way up through national research studies. And by year 3, my company had hit the $1 million mark. So I'm feeling really good about myself because I never had a real job, right? I went right from undergrad to graduate school to research fellow to a small job at Emory as a researcher. Then I started my own business, and I've already hit a lot of my goals. I had a nice lifestyle business. I was able to go on vacation once a year with my honey. Life was good, right? But around 2012, I began experiencing these really severe symptoms. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm just really, really busy. My company is growing, it's thriving, and I'm just probably a little stressed out. So I go to the doctor, and they tell me that I have Graves' disease, right? Which is not as grave as it sounds, but it is a chronic disease. If you look, you'll see I have a little scar here. because I recently had it removed because it just kept acting up and I had to get rid of it. My thyroid, I'm sorry, because Graves' disease is an autoimmune disease that targets your thyroid gland, right? So I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to manage this? They put me on medication, and many of the symptoms subsided. But the one symptom that I could not shake was the sweats. I would get hot all the time. Didn't matter the temperature or what I was doing, where I was hot. I'd be in situations like this where I'm presenting on very important topics like education or childhood obesity or economic development, and I'm sweating bullets. And I'm trying to look poised and in control and in command, and all the while in the background of my brain, I'm wondering, can they see me sweating? Right? Or do they think that I'm nervous? Do they think that I'm not prepared? Do they think that I shouldn't be here? And so I tried to find things to help manage these sweats, and I couldn't find anything good. And I saw my husband put on undershirts every morning. What man? Who's got on undershirt? Men. Undershirts. Yeah. Men, you have drawers of them, right? You have the really clean, pristine ones. Then you have the nasty, yellow, stained ones. Then you have the ones with the holes in them at the bottom. And my husband never gets rid of an undershirt. He's like, I can use this to clean the car. Like, don't buy a rag for that. Throw away the nasty undershirt. But so I'm like, oh man, I'm just gonna go and get me one of those undershirts. Surely they've got them for women somewhere and they'll fit under my little cute clothes and all that. So I go to the department store and I'm standing in the intimate apparel section. I'll never forget. And I'm looking around and I'm surrounded by walls and walls of, wait for it, shapewear. Shapewear. If you're a man, Spanx, right? And variations of Spanx and corsetry and girdles and the like. I could not find one undershirt, some functional thing to wear under my clothes to help me manage this health condition that I had going on. That men could walk into any store in the world and find a whole section dedicated to it. I couldn't find one. Everything in the women's intimate apparel section was supposed to make you pretty or supposed to make you skinny. There was nothing functional just to help me get through my day. So that was problematic for me. And then I began to see other women suffer from the same issue. They were either menopausal or experiencing hot flashes. I met women who were undergoing cancer treatment. I met women who just ran hot. I met women who live in Atlanta in August and it's 9,000 degrees. And whether you have a health condition or not, you're going to be sweating. And it's embarrassing. And when you see a woman standing in front of a room and she's overheating, you feel bad for Dana's cringing, right? Her face is like, oh, you're like, oh, does she know? So I saw a lot of women experiencing that. And I'm like, there's got to be a solution to this. And then I saw in the activewear space that they had all this really fantastic technology. So if you think about Under Armour, Lululemon, Nike Dry Fit, they have this technology, whether it's wicking, they call it moisture management, or antimicrobial, which helps to deal with the nastiness that comes out in your sweat. There are all these things that help you regulate your body temperature, going in and out of different temperatures. And I'll think to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if I could transfer that technology to body wear that women wear every day? And so that's what I did. So this is Bodyology. Well, that's me, but this is Bodyology. And I put a note on my PowerPoint slide deck to say, coupon. You have a coupon in your bag, to remind myself, because if I got home and I didn't remind you about the coupon, I'm like, dang, and I sat through that whole sales piece and I didn't even remember to tell me it was a coupon. So bodyologystore.com. Bodyology essentially applies activewear technology to basic common layers that women wear every single day. We launched in 2014, probably about a year and a half worth of development. Since then, it has been an interesting journey. So we've had a couple of really great, avoid the speaker, really great milestones. First thing is we've gotten a lot of great press, which has been fantastic. National press, local press, regional press. We've been featured in Inc., thanks to our good friend who's out in the hallway. We've been featured in Essence magazine. We've been featured locally by the Atlanta Business Chronicle. We actually had a piece in the Chronicle last month We've got a piece coming out in the Atlanta Tribune next month. So I think for us, because it's a novel idea and it's got a story, just came from a piece on stories, a story behind it, that journalists find it attractive. So that's been one of the big blessings of the last couple of years. The other big milestone for us is that last year, 1 year in, we were selected by Macy's to participate in their vendor development program called The Workshop. And so Macy's probably does the best job of any mainstream retailer of really trying to diversify their vendor and supplier base. So with the workshop in 2015, we were one of 10 companies selected from across the country. We were later told that they'd receive 1,000 applications, which means we had a 1% chance of being selected, which was really exciting for us because there's nothing like getting validation from a mainstream brand on your concept and your company, because that proves that at least somebody who's got some experience in this space thinks that you've got a shot. The Macy's Workshop program was a week-long opportunity where we got to fly up to New York City and get educated on soup to nuts on how you not only get in a mainstream retailer, but how you stay in. Because it's very hard for small businesses to be sustainable. You might find that buyer that's really interested in your product, think there's an opportunity there, and they might give you a shot, but the system is not really wired for small businesses. And if you don't perform, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to get another opportunity to come back in the door. And so at the Macy's Workshop, this is me hanging out with the president and the CEO. It's a really high quality program, and how it works is they put us in their pipeline and they provide us action steps, things that we need to do in order to get camera ready. And that's everything from merchandising to assortment, to the color palette, to identifying your customer, work with international and domestic manufacturers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we are hoping that through our Macy's relationship, we're going to obtain a department store test by 2017. So I'll let you know at the next conference. All right, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the learnings from this journey, because it has been a journey. There have been a lot of milestones and wins, big and small. But there also been a lot of challenges and ahas that come pretty fast and furious. So there are 4 learnings that I want to share, and then I want to spend some time talking to you all a little bit about whether or not these, resonate with you or connect with you. So the first is bootstrapping sucks, but it can be kind of awesome too. And I couldn't find another boot image, so I found this kinky boots image. It has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but they're shiny and they're rhinestones, and it's Broadway, and I love musicals. So anyway, kinky boots. So bootstrapping. My company, Bodyology, is completely self-funded. So I have funded it from ideation all the way up through us developing our second line or second collection. I don't have any investors. We have very little debt. And the reason I was able to do that is because I had a profitable consultancy. And I was able to roll over the profits from that consultancy into my product-based business. Great. The challenge with that is it forces me to operate on a shoestring budget. A shoestring budget means you really can't, and I think about my 2 companies as my babies. Nexus Research Group is my 6-year-old Shirley Temple that I send out to dance for the dollars, and she brings mommy home all the money. And Bodyology is my 2-year-old who is sucking me dry and just won't get off the teat, right? So, these are essentially my 2 babies. And Nexus Research Group, it's great that it's continuing to generate a resource, but I've got to direct a lot of that money back to Bodyology. So when it comes to operating on a shoestring budget, that means when it comes to talent, I've got to make some hard decisions. I can't get folks full-time. I have to get them part-time. And if they commit, I'm not their greatest priority because I'm not paying all of their bills. That means when it comes to marketing and getting the word out, I got to be really, really selective about what I use. And that has implications, because if that thing that you chose to spend the money on doesn't work, like what I did with print advertising in 2014, then you're kicking yourself because you're like, man, I should have put that in SEO. But you can't do it all at once. You got to do it one at a time, and it slows your learning. In addition to that, You can't scale quickly. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with big brands because they're interested in the product. They want to see if there's a partnership opportunity. And the first question they ask is, how many units can you produce? What's your quality control look like? What's your supply chain management look like? I'm like, supply chain, what? Well, sorry, call us back when you grow up. But if I had a $500,000, I had 250K, I can throw it to all of that. And I could probably establish those relationships a lot faster. So that's the downside to bootstrapping. The upside to bootstrapping is that it forces you to be lean. So now all this conversation about lean startup, and that's real. Because in our first year, when the bank account was looking real pretty, and I was pretty arrogant about what I was going to be able to accomplish with this company, we spent a lot of money on stuff that I probably shouldn't spend money on. And I remember watching Shark Tank, and one of the sharks said, most companies die because they're overcapitalized. And I said, well, that's stupid. Doesn't make any sense. But I can totally see it. And the great thing about launching my company on my dime is that I get to learn on my dime, right? And I'd rather learn on my dime than, have a knot in my stomach every time I see my investors' email in my inbox. I'm like, oh God, they're going to be asking me for my financials and where I am. Bootstrapping, you get to essentially learn on your own dime, and it forces you to be a little bit more lean. So next, marketing is everything. I am very clear that having a successful consultancy created a real blind spot in launching my product-based business because it was easy for me. I came out, I had this built-in network. I didn't have to market. Kelly was the product. Kelly was the brand. You bought into Kelly. I had repeat clients. I didn't have to go out and drum up business. Business flowed to me. So that made me very, very arrogant in going out and starting this product-based business because I'm like, I've done this. I've been an entrepreneur. And they say, oh, but Kelly, it's really hard. I'm like, maybe for other people, but not for me. No, it's really freaking hard. No, it's really, really, really hard. And not to say that running a service-based business is not difficult, because it is. But product-based business is a whole other level of difficulty, because I'm not selling you on Kelly. I'm selling you on this product. And I'm selling you on this product that you've never heard of before. It's not like you have one of them in your closet. So I'm asking for you to shift your mindset and shift your behavior to try my product. That's a lot of steps. And we're still figuring it out, to be perfectly honest. But I've learned in that marketing is everything. I've had this conversation with Eric when we first talked about marketing, branding. I'm like, oh, that's for those big companies. Marketing, I don't need all that. But in year one, when we weren't seeing the traffic on our site that we expected, we're like, oh, we've got to take this seriously. So if you don't have a marketing plan, marketing strategy, marketing dollars that are very, very targeted and intentional, you are dead in the water. So that was a very, very big learning for us, and distinction between the service-based and the product. Not to say that marketing is not important if you have a service. To this day, I have clients that, if for whatever reason our engagement ends, when I see them, they're like, oh, Kelly, man, I miss that Garrett's popcorn. Because I would send my clients branded Garrett's popcorn every Christmas, which they love, by the way. If you need an idea, something you want to send your clients for Christmas or whatever, send them Garrett's popcorn. They will love it. But I was still marketing, but Bodyology forced me to market on a whole other level. The next piece is networking really, really matters. I think it's funny when my colleagues in the third sector nonprofit space tell me that I have a great network, because I know I don't have a great network. I have a deep network in one area. So I pulled this picture because my experience reminds me of this cafeteria, right? For the last 8 years of my career, I've been sitting with the nerds. And we sit with our juice boxes and our sandwiches, and we talk about housing policy and school reform and economic development. And yeah, I've got a really deep network around the nerds. But for the last 8 years, I haven't been hanging out with the jocks. I haven't been hanging out with cheerleaders. I haven't been hanging out with the tech geeks. And I really, really need to be hanging out with the tech geeks now. I wish I was hanging out with those tech geeks. But I'm being forced now to really build a broad network and not necessarily a deep network. Because in growing Bodyology, all those really smart people that I cultivated relationship and rapport with over the course of my career, they really could not help me because they didn't know enough about what I was doing. So I wasn't able to leverage that network The other thing that I would say is for me, networking, you have to be very intentional. So, I'm very specific and deliberate in building my network, but I'm also big on reciprocity. Whenever I'm networking, I'm not trying to figure out what I can get out of the situation. I'm trying to think through how it can be a win-win, right? So lastly, you've got to be resilient. And Dana, you mentioned this, having a tough skin. I mean, seriously, you've got to be resilient. They have this cute little quote that says, "Oh, it's not about how many times you're knocked down, but how many times you get up." And I'm like, yeah, okay. It's kind of like Rocky 2. You remember Rocky 2, where Rocky and Apollo Creed are like slugging it out for 15 rounds or something, and they both kind of fall out in the end, and then you don't really know who won until the very end. It's kind of like that. It's like you have to be knocked down and get up for 15 rounds. It's not like, oh, that was cute, get up, dust it off. It's like you're beaten, you're bloodied, you're bruised. It's rough stuff. And for me, I've really focused on, okay, so how can I strengthen my muscle for rejection? I'm reading Originals now, and the author talks about how it's really a numbers game. And it's something I've known, but it's something I really needed to hear it, and I needed it to be reinforced. It's a numbers game. So I'm very strategic in punching above my weight. I applied for Leadership Atlanta this year. I in no way meet the criteria for Leadership Atlanta, right? I have friends that say, "Oh, Kelly, you should do it." I'm like, "You're telling me that because you love me, not because I'm a really good fit." But I applied and I didn't get it. But that's okay. I was like, all right, rejection, stung, moving on to the next thing. Because for every 3 things that I apply for that I don't get, I get one really cool opportunity. A lot of that press that we got is because it was a numbers game for me, and I was reaching out to everybody and their mother. And that's what hit. So in business, you gotta be tough, you gotta be resilient, and you've got to really be okay with rejection, not taking it personally. So now I'm gonna open it up for Q&A, but I would love to hear your experiences and if anything that I said today connects or resonates with what you're doing in your business. Anybody?
Live stream.
Oh, let's go with live stream.
So, yeah, we take our punches as entrepreneurs. Would
Sure.
you have, if someone had told you, because you had that consulting firm,
Yeah.
would you have believed them? In hindsight, would you have changed this path?
Probably not. So I'm big on advice, giving advice. People always ask me, so I love to give it. But when they don't take it, I'm like, that's okay, because if someone told me how hard it would be, I wouldn't have believed them either. Some things in life you just got to experience on your own. And I try my best to avoid pitfalls, but some pitfalls you just got to fall in flat on your face and come back from it because it really is critical to your journey and to your development.
So I have a question.
Uh-oh. Yes.
So did you see recently that Spanx is coming out with a product?
Oh, God. What kind of product?
One that has the wicking. I didn't know if you'd seen that. So what do you think about that when the big competition comes in? Because you've got some people who could compete in that space, right?
Absolutely. So, you have to differentiate yourself. What we say is mainstream brands have sprinklings of this, technology throughout their line, but they're not promoting it. They're just trying to diversify, right? But if this is an issue for you, and we're really pitching to women on the go who are active, because if you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're going all day long. You might be going to work, picking up the kids, going to the gym, you might have civic commitments. It's a long, long day. So we're really trying to develop into an aspirational lifestyle brand for that active woman on the go. Because I love Spanx, but Spanx is changing every time you look up because they're trying to adjust to the modern woman. They're really good for that 90s woman who's trying to break the glass ceiling. But
I love that. That's great. I just had,
2016
shoulder pads and all kinds of things came in.
oh, stop it. But, in 2016, the modern woman, there's this whole crave around athleisure. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but people want to be comfortable. You want to throw in your yoga wear, go do your yoga class, go pick up your groceries, get coffee with your girlfriends. You don't want to change your clothes, and you want to feel comfortable. And I think they're trying to figure out how they rework their strategy to speak to that 2016 2016 modern. But we're trying to get it there first. But when you're bootstrapping, it's hard.
Dana has a question. Ooh, Kelly's like, I'm never doing this again.
No, it's fine.
You didn't know you were in the hot seat up there.
All good.
I have a question because you were doing a consulting business and then you really switched gears altogether, moved into a space you essentially knew nothing about. Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs do that for the same kinds of reasons. They have a personal connection to whatever the businesses they want to start. But did you, as you were making that switch, did you look to mentors who were in the clothing world or in the undergarments world? Did you find anybody that could really give you some direction in that space?
That would have been the smart thing to do. Of course not. Did you? I said it was arrogant, Dana. So here's my thinking, right? I'm a researcher. That's what I do for a living. So I just get on Google and I'll find manufacturers and I'll find designers and I'll find pattern makers. And that was the longest, most painful process because I assumed that the industry was organized in an intuitive way, but it was completely fragmented and was built on relationships. And these were folks who would run factories and the factory had ran in their family for, 40, 50, 60 years. They didn't have a website, but they were the best factory. So there was a lot of that stuff. But no, I had no clue. I had no idea. Because I mentioned I never had a real job, I didn't have those natural pathways to mentors that other folks do if you have a career and you work within a business or a company. So I didn't have access to those people. And I don't know if I had the good sense to look or even if I had the pathway to reach them, if that makes sense. But I would highly recommend it.
Well, there are a lot of good stories from people who had no idea what they were doing, and they just sort of make it. Any other questions? Whitney has a question. Whitney wore these shoes and stood on that pedestal for like 4 hours today.
Maybe that's another business. I need to come up with good-looking shoes that are comfortable.
That's right.
Kelly, I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. I know we're connected on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I see all the time that you're out doing different things. Obviously, you're here today. You're the CEO of this company. How do you do it all? Because I know it's great, when you're doing the different events, because obviously that's promotion for your business, but how do you fit it all into one day?
Okay, so here's the real deal.
There are two of you.
I have a clone. I have eliminated a lot of the noise out of my life. And my days are incredibly efficient. So when I say I've eliminated the noise, I largely work from home. So I don't have downtime in traffic. I have really easy relationships, right? This is horrible. This is probably TMI. But if you have tumultuous relationships with the people in your home, that takes up a whole lot of brain space. So I have really great, supportive, nurturing relationships. I have this saying that the great thing about having busy friends is that you never have to apologize for being busy, right? Because they're busy too, and they get it that you're busy. So I just have really, really great relationships, supportive relationships, and I squeeze every second that I can out of my day, but I still get my 8 hours of sleep. I don't play with that.